Let's get straight to the point. Imagine your life is a wheel that never stops turning, and each turn of this wheel is a new experience, a lesson to be learned, a pain to be felt, or a pleasure to be enjoyed. This is what is called Sānsāra. This is a profound concept present in many spiritual traditions, especially in Buddhism and Hinduism. Sānsāra is essentially the continuous cycle of birth, death, and rebirth, characterized by worldly sufferings and pleasures to which we are all bound in this earthly existence. But why do we feel Sānsāra, and how can we intervene in this cycle? Let's delve into that. To begin with, imagine the current of a river. You are being carried by this current, sometimes gently, sometimes turbulently, but always in motion, with no end in sight. This current represents Sānsāra. In Buddhism, it is believed that our ignorance, actions, and attachments keep us adrift in this endless current. Every action we take, every thought we have, every desire we nurture, they all have consequences that tie us to Sānsāra, keeping us trapped in this unbroken cycle of births and deaths. One of the first steps to understanding Sānsāra is to comprehend the Four Noble Truths proposed by Siddhartha Gautama, the Buddha. These are essential teachings that provide a solid foundation for those seeking to escape this wheel of suffering. 1. The truth of suffering. Buddha taught that life is permeated by dukkha, a Pali term that can be translated as suffering, dissatisfaction, or anguish. This reality is inevitable. We all experience some form of pain, be it physical, mental, or emotional at some point in life. 2. The truth of the origin of suffering. Buddha pointed out that suffering has a cause. He identified desire, attachment, and ignorance as the roots of suffering. It is our constant quest to satisfy desires that keeps us continuously dissatisfied and bound to the cycle of Sānsāra. 3. The truth of the cessation of suffering. This noble truth brings a message of hope. It tells us that it is possible to find an end to suffering by breaking the cycle of desire and ignorance. Achieving nirvana, a state of liberation and peace, is to interrupt Sānsāra. 4. The truth of the path that leads to the end of suffering. Buddha offered us a practical path to free ourselves from suffering, known as the Noble Eightfold Path. This path includes principles of ethical conduct, mental discipline, and wisdom. Understanding these truths is crucial for those seeking intervention in Sānsāra. And how do we do this in practice? Let's talk about the Noble Eightfold Path, which is divided into 3 main categories: wisdom, prajna, ethical conduct, sila, and mental discipline, samadhi. First, let's focus on wisdom. Right understanding involves understanding the Four Noble Truths and the true nature of reality. This correct understanding allows us to see beyond the illusions that bind us to Sānsāra. Right thought refers to thoughts free from malice, cruelty, and hatred, motivated by goodwill and compassion. These positive and benevolent thoughts help create a mental state conducive to liberation. Regarding ethical conduct, right speech means speaking with truth and kindness. Avoiding lies, slander, or speech that causes discord is essential to create harmony in our relationships and reduce suffering generated by improper use of words. Right action refers to acting morally and ethically. This involves avoiding harmful actions such as killing, stealing, and improper sexual conduct. Living according to these precepts helps reduce negative karma and promotes inner peace. Right livelihood encourages seeking a profession and a way of life that do not cause suffering to oneself or others. Avoiding businesses that involve exploitation or cruelty is essential. Finally, about mental discipline. Right effort means continuously cultivating healthy mental states and abandoning harmful ones. Continuous effort is necessary to keep the mind free of negativity and cultivate virtues. Right mindfulness involves being fully present and aware in the moment. Whether you are eating, walking, or meditating, being aware of your actions, feelings, and thoughts is crucial. Right concentration refers to the practice of deep meditation to achieve a focused and tranquil mind. This concentration helps in purifying the mind and realizing supreme wisdom. By following this path, we can begin to see the web of Sānsāra that binds us and how our desires and attachments keep us in it. But why exactly do we feel Sānsāra? And why are we susceptible to this endless wheel of suffering? The answer lies in our own mind. Our perception of reality is distorted by the illusions and desires we cultivate. Looking deeper, we realize that Sānsāra is actually a creation of our own mind. An ancient story illustrates this point well. Once there was a very wise man who lived on an isolated mountain. One day a king, tired of his life full of luxury and intrigues, decided to seek this wise man for advice. "O great sage, how can I find lasting peace and happiness?" asked the king. The wise man looked at the king and said, "Before finding peace, you must detach yourself from your desires and illusions. Go back to your palace and live for a month as if everything you own does not belong to you. Treat your servants as equals and do not cling to anything." The king did as the sage advised, and at the end of the month he returned to the mountain. "Great sage, I did as you said. I still feel suffering, but I also discovered a new lightness. What should I do now?" The wise man replied, "Detachment is the first step. Now you must focus your mind and purify it through meditation. Continue on this path and you will eventually find liberation." The story above shows us that intervention in Sānsāra begins with detachment and meditation, but it is a continuous path. It is not an immediate intervention, but a gradual process of self-transformation. Besides the path taught by Buddha, various spiritual traditions have unique approaches to Sānsāra. In Hinduism, for example, the practice of karma yoga, yoga of action, and bhakti yoga, yoga of devotion, are considered effective paths to free oneself from the cycle of rebirth. Karma yoga involves performing actions without attachment to their outcomes, while bhakti yoga refers to loving devotion to the divine. Both practices help purify the mind and soul, eventually leading to moksha, or liberation. However, it is important to understand that liberation from Sānsāra is not an escape from the world, but an internal transformation that changes how we live and perceive reality. It is about living in the world but not being of the world, having a light heart and a clear mind, regardless of external circumstances. Another crucial point is understanding the concept of anatta, or non-self, as taught by Buddha. The belief in a permanent and unchanging self is one of the main obstacles that keep us trapped in Sānsāra. Understanding that the self is an illusion, that we are a constant change of physical and mental states, is fundamental to interrupting the cycle of rebirth. We must also consider the practical application of these philosophies in our daily lives. Let's talk about how we can cultivate these practices and interventions in an accessible way. First, start with small steps. The practice of meditation upon waking, even for just 5 minutes, can have a significant impact. This practice helps calm the mind and develop mindfulness. Another practical exercise is daily recap, where you mentally review your actions, thoughts, and emotions of the day. Ask yourself what caused suffering and what brought happiness, and reflect on how you can act more consciously the next day. Finally, patience and perseverance are essential. The path to interrupt Sānsāra is not easy and requires continuous dedication. Every small step, every act of kindness, and every second of meditation contribute to transformation. I invite you to reflect on your own lives. Observe your desires, your actions, and your attachments. Ask yourself how these factors may be contributing to your own experience of Sānsāra. And remember, intervention in this cycle is not just a spiritual practice, but a deeply personal journey that each must walk. I conclude this meeting with you with the hope that these reflections become a source of inspiration and guidance. May each of you find the path to peace and liberation from Sānsāra in your own life. My heartfelt thanks to each of you for joining me on this journey of discovery and self-knowledge. See you in the next meeting. Namaste.